So last week we started talking a bit about vocal technique. We talked about singing on the breath, and I gave you 3 exercises to work on that. We talked about singing through a straw. We talked about lip trills or tongue trills, and we talked about the sound. I was watching the Three Stooges yesterday with Lottie, and there's lots of in the Three Stooges. That's the sound that will get you to get those vocal folds to approximate all the way. And then if you slowly open up to an ah, or an oo, or an e, or whatever you like, and you keep that same feeling, zing, then you have an efficient sound coming out, and there's no air escaping. Anybody try any of those this week? You're just in the car, you're vocalizing, yeah? Did you have fun? All right. Which one did you like the best? Yes, I do too. I love it. Man, it could be maybe because I'm a Swede. I don't know, but I love that. All right. Now we're going to talk about there's Jim. We're going to talk about one more subject in vocal technique, and that is registers or modes. We're going to talk about both in the voice. So let's look first at registers. I have encountered a lot of choir singers over the years who don't know that they have different registers in their voices or how to access them. Some people just naturally come into this world knowing how to get into the different registers of their voice, and most of those people seem to be women, or they're tenors. We know how to use these other registers in the voice in other contexts, though, and we just aren't aware of it. And so I like to try to help people think about how you use your voice differently at different times. So let's take a look at them. The first one is what we call chest voice. And chest voice is where most of us tend to speak. It's called chest voice because if you put your hand here and you just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can feel it vibrating right here. Okay? That's where most of us tend to speak. We tend to speak in our chest voice. The problem occurs when we sing and we try to keep everything like we speak. And we try to carry that chest voice up into a higher register, and it just won't go. It's like driving a truck up a hill in third. That's not going to work. You got to shift into first to get up the hill. So we try to carry that chest voice up. It gets strained and it feels heavy because it is. The truth is most people can sing much higher than they think they can. We just have to know how to shift into that higher register, and that is what we call head voice. Head voice, we call it that way because when we sing in this register, we kind of feel it vibrating up here, or some people kind of describe it as feeling like it's vibrating out of the top of your head. But you feel it more up here than at chest voice, where I'm speaking, down here. It's hard for a lot of folks to access that in singing because it's not how we speak. If you walked around speaking in your head voice, people would look at you funny. Because the head voice sound, the best way I have found with young people to get into this sound is to do a silly cartoon voice. So like Scooby-Doo, or Yogi Bear, or Patrick Star from SpongeBob, or Snagglepuss, all of these cartoon characters use a head voice sound. So you think about like Bullwinkle the Moose, right? Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of a hat. I don't walk around talking that way because people would look at me funny, right? But if you can think about that, or you think about, Snagglepuss, oh look, the door is open, ajar even. If you think about that feeling, and I do something with my choir, we do a vocalese on Boy, Boy, Boy in the silly cartoon voice. Boy, 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 boy. 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 And I can just keep going, okay? Now, if I try to do that If I try to do that in my chest voice, boy, 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 I'm going to start yelling, okay? Because I'm trying to carry that heaviness up. So think about that silly cartoon voice and play with that and see about how, when you sing, that you can move into that other feeling. So if I say, let me get a little pitch here. Where am I? There we go. So that's B flat right there. So if I go, nia, 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 nia. That top note was in my head voice, okay? If I tried to sing that in my chest voice, it would not have been pretty. That's chest voice, okay? That's me pushing chest, trying to hit that note in chest voice. It's not going to work, okay? That's what we call yelling, right? So you have to shift and you have to play with that. And as you practice that, you'll find that there is a spot in your voice, and it's different for everybody, but there's a spot in your voice where you have to shift from chest voice to head voice. For me, it's E natural, which means I am a baritone. That is called the break or the passaggio in the voice. Like I said, the location of it varies from person to person. In singing, we try to minimize the break by using what we call the mix. Now, what the mix is that I know that my passaggio is at E natural. I know that. So what I try to do is starting around C. So that's like middle C for me, okay? Starting on that C, I will start mixing in some of the feeling of head voice with the chest voice. And then, so like, it's kind of, okay, who can drive a stick? All right. Yes, thank you. Very good. My best friend in college, he was like, you're going to learn how to drive a stick. And I said, great, because he drove a little Toyota 5-speed. And I said, great, I'll come out to your house. He said, no, we'll go into your house. I lived in Center Point. And so, he lived out here in Inverness. And Center Point is like this, okay? And so we go out and we go to this stop sign not far from my house. Then the stop sign is like, you're sitting like this on a hill. And that's where we started. He said, we're going to start. He put the parking brake on and we swapped places. He said, we're going to start here because if you can do this, then you can do anything else. And when you drive a stick, you have to learn how to balance that with, pulling the clutch, taking your foot off the clutch while you accelerate, and you get that balance point so that the car doesn't go, right? That's what mix is. That's what mix is. It's getting that balance of finding just how much of the head voice to mix in and just how much to let off of the chest voice as you go up and where to do it so that it sounds seamless. It's not. It's illusion. It's theater. But it sounds like a seamless thing. Just like if you're really good at driving a stick, you can shift and it'll be smooth instead of jerky. So that's what the mix is in the voice. And again, it's in a different place for everybody. Not everybody has to start mixing on a C like I do. But I know that about myself. I know where those places are in my voice, and that's where I have to start. Or else it's going to be very noticeable when because you don't want to just all of a sudden flip into another register. All right. Now, I want to talk about another way of thinking about these registers in the voice, which may help you. It doesn't help everybody, but I think it helps some people. And that is thinking about modes in the voice. Sometimes talking about registers and talk about, well, this is your chest voice and this is your head voice. And people say, well, how many voices do I have? Well, you only have one. You have one voice, but you use your voice in different ways. And so that's where I think sometimes modes can be helpful. We talk about using different modes of your voice. It's not that you have different voices. Does that make sense? Unless, you need to see somebody. But we're not going to talk about all the modes your voice has, but I want to mention 3 modes that are important for congregational singing. So the first one is speech mode, and this would be pretty much analogous to the what we call chest voice. Speech mode is you're in speech mode. It's just like you're speaking, right? That's that mode of your voice that you use when you're speaking, and it has a certain feel to it for you, and you know what it feels like, right? And you know when it's off. If you've got a cold or you've got allergies or whatever, and your voice doesn't feel the same, it doesn't sound the same, there's something off with your speech mode. The next mode we're going to look at is cry mode, and this is analogous to head voice. But remember I said that we use these different modes in our voices and we don't even know it. So cry mode is that mode of your voice that you find yourself using when you are crying and you try to talk to somebody at the same time. And you know how your voice comes out when you do that, and it doesn't sound like yourself, does it? You're crying and that's a sound that, we don't speak that way. But that is a mode of your voice, and that is a helpful thing to think about when you are getting into the upper register, because thinking about cry mode will help you get there. Think about like crying like a puppy. If you've ever brought home a new puppy, you know what I'm talking about. Those first few nights, and you stay up and you hear them crying like a puppy. And that's a useful way to get into the cry mode of your voice. And sometimes I tell the choir, talk to the puppy, because we talk to puppies in a certain way, right? Talking to the puppy is another way of getting into that cry mode of your voice. And the next mode is not analogous to a register in your voice, but it is a mode that you can use across registers, and that is what we call twang mode. Twang is useful in higher registers and in lower registers to take the strain off the voice and to focus the sound. You think about SpongeBob, we talked about cartoon characters a minute ago, dopey cartoon characters. But you think about like SpongeBob or Bugs Bunny, not dopey characters. These are the wise guy characters, right? Or you think about like the Wicked Witch of the West, those kind of sounds, like that, or like a quacking like a duck, or crying like a baby, wah, wah, wah. I had a voice teacher who would make me sing something on wah, wah, because especially in the upper registers, when I go up higher, as I get into my head voice, I can tend to start to swallow the sound too. Okay, and it gets really dark. I tend to have a dark singing voice anyway, but it tends to get too dark. And so using that twang mode, that wah feeling, can help to focus the sound and it won't sound woofy. All right? So your voice can do so many different things. And I would encourage you just to play with this. Go back and watch the videos and play with these different modes in your voice and the different sounds that you can make with your voice. And your voice can do so many more things than you think it can. As you sing in church, as you sing on the hymns, when it starts to go up higher, start thinking about changing how it feels. Don't worry about how it sounds, but worry about how it feels, and change that feeling of your voice to a feeling that is more up inside your head, and see what happens.